Hello everyone and welcome to this video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at this album here. It is Station to Station by David Bowie. So I've just been doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. This was David Bowie's 10th studio album, released on the 23rd of January in 1976. It was recorded in Los Angeles in the latter half of 1975. It's an album which Bowie himself has very little recollection of making due to his cocaine addiction at the time. It was recorded with Henry Maslin, who had produced some of the Young Americans album, I believe the songs Fame and his cover of Across the Universe, and also a band which became the foundation of Bowie's future releases through till, I think, Scary Monsters Super Creeps. So the band he used was Carlos Alomar on guitar, George Murray on bass, and Dennis Davis on drums. Now musically, it is often considered to be a transitional album in Bowie's catalogue because it maintains the plastic soul elements of Young Americans while also incorporating some sort of darker elements as well, which he would go on to explore further on the Berlin trilogy. So for the album, he created the character of the Thin White Duke. This was kind of like an extension of the character Thomas Jerome Newton, who he played in the film The Man Who Fell to Earth around this time. So he's quite a sort of cold, sort of callous character who sang these quite deep emotional songs, but without feeling any emotion himself. Now, Bowie would get into some bother with this character, in the following months, because he did say some questionable things, in interviews, when he was, playing, this Thin White Duke character, said some questionable things, regarding fascism, and, was, photographed, apparently giving a Nazi salute, when he arrived in London in May of 1976. Now, he did blame these lapses in judgment on his, high, drug intake, years later. He wasn't really, in, a fit state, making this album, or touring it, the months afterwards. However, it was a commercial success, though. It reached number 3 in America, notably being his highest charting album there until 2013's The Next Day, and in the UK it reached number 5. Critical reception to it was mostly positive. However, Billboard magazine did say that the title track dragged, which I think is quite unfair. However, the NME declared it one of the most significant albums of the last 5 years, which, considering the great music what came out between 71 and 76 here, that is quite high praise indeed. So I will show you my vinyl copy of it here. I have also got the CD to show as well. Firstly, the cover. I do quite like the cover, but I do probably prefer it in colour slightly. There's just something about it, something about it in colour, which I just like that bit more. It's a still from the film The Man Who Fell to Earth, and also notably another still from this film would adorn the next album, Low, in 1977. So he certainly liked this look, this aesthetic, what he had going on here. So yeah, the album there, very simplistic design, kind of just the song titles there, no spacing or anything. And the vinyl itself is just on. You get an insert with this one as well, which just has the credits there, but no lyrics or anything on this. And then the vinyl is just on the kind of fake sort of RCA recreation label, because as I said, this is the reissue I have got of it. But the CD now, I'll just show here. This one, I'm not sure when this one came out. I think, actually, I'm just looking at the back here. It says 1999 remastered off it there. So you get a bit more artwork with this one. You get a little booklet, which I'll just pull out. And then a lot more pictures, often from this area. Great look he had around this area with that very sort of that striking sort of orange hair he had going on. And yeah, so there's a lot of nice pictures in here, lyrics of him performing on tour. So yeah, CD definitely worth picking up as well. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs. So there are only 6 tracks on this album, so this review will probably be a bit shorter than usual, but I will just do my usual thing of scoring each track and then using those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So the album kicks off with Station to Station, which is, for me, one of Bowie's very, very, very best songs. I absolutely love this track. It's also notably his longest song he's ever recorded as well. I just love the journey this track takes you on. It begins with some sort of eerie feedback guitar from like Earl Slick, who was the lead guitarist on this album, and then this kind of sound effects like off the kind of like the train sort of like going like from like one speaker like to like the other, sets up this very dark sort of like European feeling, like obviously very inspired by the likes of Kraftwerk and Neu. So yeah, the first part like off the track is quite dark, and then kind of like this sort of like this brooding kind of, like, I won't quite say funk like sort of pattern, like, but you kind of get like this little guitar riff and this plodding piano. It just sounds very dark, very menacing, and like then we're kind of introduced like to the character like off the Thin White Duke, the return of the Thin White Duke throwing darts in Lover's Eyes. Then that section goes on a bit, and then kind of suddenly like in the middle we just get a little drum fill, and it kind of just sort of explodes. The song is just pure euphoria. Yeah, this great sort of backbeat on it. Bowie's vocal is just great, and like then like kind of like the fade out like off the song, like the ending is this kind of it is a bit repetitive. It's kind of like he sort of sings like, it's too late to be grateful, it's too late to be late again. Well, he's just singing that. Even though it is repetitive, it just gets your foot tapping so much. It is just great. It just sounds amazing. And yeah, for me, like, even though it is a 10-minute song, it just doesn't drag. I just think it is a true masterpiece. And it is also like a clear signal, like off like where like he was gonna go next. Like one of the lyrics, like the European canon is here. Like certainly like him moving to Berlin like by the end of the year might have been like on his mind like making this. Like we don't really know. But yeah, Station to Station, incredible song. For me, an easy 10 out of 10. And then the next track up is Golden Years, which was the main single from the album, and it kind of carries on the kind of soulful, almost kind of disco-y feeling of the Young Americans album, songs like Fame and like different tracks of that album, but it kind of has, for me, a kind of more menacing edge. I don't think this song would have maybe slotted in seamlessly like onto Young Americans like a lot of other people seem to think it does, because he kind of got all these sort of different backing vocals going on, like which like Bowie like done himself like on this track, like rather than like sort of like using like other singers like he did like on Young Americans. Now apparently he wrote this one with the intention of giving it to Elvis Presley. I'm not sure like if Elvis like ever heard it, like, or like if like he turned it down, but I'm certainly not sure how that would have turned out, because yeah, for me Bowie's version is just the signature version of the song. And as I said, it was a successful single. It reached number 8 in the UK and number 10 in America, and although it's probably not one of his most iconic songs like these days, it's not like a Heroes or so like Starman or Space Oddity kind of like level like of like Fame, like all like sort of like all sort of like being like an iconic song. It is for me one of my personal favourite singles off his, and yeah, for me would get another 10 out of 10 on the album. And then side 1 closes with Words on a Wing, which for me is an absolutely beautiful, haunting song, this. It's kind of got slightly religious undertones. He sings on it about like, Lord, my prayer flies like a word on a wing, and I'm trying hard to fit among your scheme of things. I mean, Bowie said years later that this was a literal cry for help. Like I said, it was a very paranoid time for him. He didn't like living like in like America, and like yeah, like this song was kind of like a kind of trying to like release himself like from that sort of lifestyle on it. But for me, I think he sings it beautifully. It's got one of his very best vocal performances on it, and the production is very tasteful as well. I like how the band is quite restrained. Like you have got like piano playing on it, but it's not like Mike Garson's playing like on like Aladdin Sane, which goes a bit like over the top. It's just very tasteful. It just serves the song so well. So yeah, for me, Word on a Wing would get a 10 out of 10. Another amazing song there. And then side 2 for me isn't quite as strong, but it's still up there though. It's still very, very good. TVC15 kicks off the second side, and this is probably the most upbeat, the most sort of light song on the album, I would say. It's got a slightly sort of strange sort of lyrical concept, basically about like like basically about like the narrator's girlfriend being eaten up like by like this telly, like, and then sort of like the guy like going like on like a mission to try and find her. Apparently it was inspired by a real life sort of like drug misadventures like with like Iggy Pop, like in 1975, like, so yeah, kind of quite sort of quirky, oddball lyrics on it. And for me, it is a bit repetitive as well. Like, that is probably like the one thing what lets it down. For me, it's not quite like Station to Station, where the kind of repetitiveness of it is effective and really part of the song. For me, like, it just gets a bit annoying, like that, oh, my TVC15, like that bit repeated. Doesn't do too much for me, but musically I do like the way it builds up. Different instruments become more intense throughout the song, and I think it is a good track. It's just, for me, not quite as strong as the stuff on the first side, and notably as well, it was issued as the second single from the album. Didn't do too well though. It reached number 33 in the UK and only number 64 over in America. But also notably as well, like, he actually performed this song at his Live Aid concert in 1985. Quite an oddball choice there to do. But yeah, TVC15, a good song, would get an 8 out of 10 from me. That's what I meant to say. And then we get another favourite of mine, Stay, which is just an amazing song. Again, it's quite sort of, it sort of builds on that Young Americans kind of soulful feel to it. Like, especially like his vocal performance, he's very sort of croony kind of style. Like, he sings like on it, but they just kind of rock out a bit more, especially Earl Slick, like, who like sort of like that really is the star of the show with this track. But then also like Dennis Davis drums are just so on point. The band are really, really tight like on this song. Lyrically, it's kind of about being alone, kind of like in like sort of like solitude. Like, the first line on it is, "This week passed by me so slowly. The days fell on their knees. Maybe I'll take something to help me. Hope someone takes after me." Like, goes like the opening line, and yeah, I just think it's great. I love like, again, like, it is a long song this, but it doesn't feel dragged out. You just get really into like the groove like with it, and yeah, I think it's brilliant. So yeah, Stay for me would get a 10 out of 10. Okay, then we're already at the last song, which is Wild is the Wind, which is a cover song on the album, and it is one which often gets picked out as a highlight like off the album and off Bowie's career, really. However, for me, I just maybe don't rate it quite that highly. I mean, I do understand like its appeal. The song itself is very nice. It was made famous by Nina Simone, and Bowie does really make this song his own. Like, his vocal is, it just soars, like, especially like towards the end. But it just takes a bit to get going, this song, for me. But yeah, it is very spacious, quite laid back. I mean, like, I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10 because I do like it. It's just not one which I tend to sort of like pick out like as a highlight on the album. And it was also notably issued, I think, as a single, albeit many years later, I think in 1981, to promote some compilation or something. I'm not sure if it done particularly well at all. But yeah, for me, Wild is the Wind, a nice closer to the album, and it would get an 8 out of 10. Okay, so overall, this album would score 93%, which is a cracking score. Like, very rarely do albums for me get over 90%. Just shows you, I mean, like, there's not a weak song on here. Like, even though, yes, it is only 6 tracks, but every one of those 6 tracks is special, and it does add something to the album. It is a highly significant album in his discography, and it is remarkable that it turned out as good as it did. I mean, despite Bowie's mental state, like, at the time, I'm not sure, like, if like, sort of like the band were kind of maybe sort of like doing like a bit more like of like the hard work like on it, but still, like, he was writing the lyrics to like all these songs. He was singing them amazingly. So certainly, like, he did still have a lot of like artistic involvement. He just doesn't remember much of it. And yeah, one thing for me which kind of makes this a bit sort of unique and sort of special is that all the songs are on like the longish sort of side, like over 5 minutes, which for me, I'm like usually tend to be not a fan like of like really long songs, but none of them really feel ponderous or feel like they go on a bit. Well, like maybe TVC15 does a bit, but all the others, like are like you just really get into the grooves like off like the song, and like none of them feel ponderous like or like overstretched. And yeah, like even though it is only the 6 songs, everyone is different and offers something kind of important to the album. And I mean, certainly, I think statistically, like in terms of like the scores for it, I don't think that any David Bowie album could top this. But maybe personally, I've maybe got a bit more attachment to something like Low, maybe, but this one's certainly like a close second or third for me. And again, I think it is just testament to how productive like he was, and how sort of like he was always striving to go forward, because like less than a year after this came out, he'd already relocated to Berlin. He'd got his health like back like under check. He got off the drugs, and he made, for me, like one of his best albums, like in Low, what was released like the following year, and then also Heroes, like that very same year. So like he never stopped like David Bowie. So yeah, like I'll stop rambling, and I'll just like bring this review to a close. So yeah, like as you can tell, I do really like Station to Station, and I hope that you have enjoyed this review. I'd be interested to know what you think of this album in the comments below, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye. Oh, well,